Good Sunday morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John Becker, and we are going to focus on the juvenile court system in Knox County in our discussion this morning, and we are pleased to have Judge Tim Irwin with us, who's been in this post for 20 years. Judge, nice to have you here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Also played a little NFL football as well, 14 years or so. And yes, we'll talk about both those things for sure. Susan Richardson Williams is a Republican, runs her own PR firm. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, John.
Don Bosch is a Democrat, runs his own law firm.
Good morning.
Nice to have you, Don. Judge, let's start with some basics and what it is that you do every day, your range of cases that people may not understand.
We see the whole spectrum of cases that can affect children. Everything from unmarried parents' child support to dependent neglect cases, perhaps a kid's getting abused or has been abandoned, or both parents went to jail. There's no one to take care of this kid. We see kids that have done something wrong, maybe minor stuff that we see, but we also see very serious stuff that's been perpetrated by children. So we see the delinquent side as well as the dependence and neglect side. And then we have to free kids up to be adopted, and that's the kind of the end of the road, the delinquent side. So we spend, I want to say 90 to 95% of our cases are on the dependence and neglect side.
We will get, Judge, to the detention center because there are some questions about it moving forward. A lot of people have read about it in the news. But just for more background on what you do every day, what's the best thing you see in people? What's the worst thing?
The best thing I see that ever happens to me is to be walking down the street somewhere and some kid come up and say, "Hey, I made it. Thanks for putting me in that home. It worked out." Or, "Thank you, Judge Irwin. I needed some direction right there and you gave it to me and I've got my kid back and everything's going great." And that makes me smile. When I see a person that I had on my truancy docket and they graduate from high school and they're going to college, or they've got a good job somewhere, or they got a speeding ticket and they say, "Judge, thank you, I never got another one." I mean, all that stuff, and they're alive. Number one way we lose young people, car accidents. So we're very serious about speeding up. That's another thing we do.
Mm-hmm. What made you get into this? You played football for Tennessee, you played in the NFL, law degree, obviously. What made you move toward juvenile? Was there one thing in your life that moved you into wanting to help juveniles and young kids?
A couple of things. I used to scratch a living out in a general practice with my partner, Bo Reed, who now works for me. And I was there in court every day with Don Bosch and some others, and we represented people that had gotten in trouble, and we hoped that a good wreck would come along. But you just didn't get that feeling of fulfillment when you won some money in a judgment for somebody, or you represented somebody and got them a good result. It just wasn't the same as when you know you can make things better in a child's life. I mean, kids really, there's no magic formula, but I believe that the most important formula is that they have somebody that compassionately cares about them and will make sacrificial gifts of time. The kids that are locked up in the Richard Bean Center, most of them don't have that. It doesn't have to be mom or dad. It can be a parent, a foster parent, a coach, somebody at the Boys and Girls Club. It could be a teacher, but somebody, they have to be disappointed for that kid, and that kid has to know it and want to try to be a better person for the kid and for the person that's given to them. And I think you got that, you're going to have success.
That's a little introduction to you, Judge. Let's talk about the changes we're seeing at the Richard Bean Detention Center. Again, we've seen this under new management. We heard from Richard Bean, who was concerned about what he feels like was being pushed out of this job. Did you ever have any problems with how he handled himself as an administrator?
Nothing. I never know of an instance in my 20 years where a child was mistreated. And kudos to Mr. Bean for that. I don't think there's many places that can say that across the state. He was very good to the children that stayed back there. We needed some modernization. We needed some computer skills. We needed to be careful that we were following the law and reporting it accurately. And we needed some nursing care around the clock. And that just wasn't happening. And it was time. It was time to make a change. But I don't have any ill will towards Mr. Bean. I think he did a fantastic job, and he was a servant for 51 years.
So, Judge, I'd like to push back on that just a little bit. I agree, Richard did a fabulous job for a very long time, but I think as we got a little further along, we heard stories of kids inappropriately being placed in solitary confinement, kids not getting appropriate medical care timely, not getting their meds or not getting the right meds, and that was becoming seemingly more frequent, more stories like that. I've had at least one experience with a juvenile client that had a medicine issue while he was there. Did you hear any of those over the last few years?
I did, and that concerned me. And that's one of the reasons why I think the mayor decided to implement the change that he did.
Did you have part of making that change?
I reported to the mayor what I knew.
Okay.
I didn't make any decisions. I don't think I get
not your decision to make, is it?
I don't think I get to make a decision
Right.
as far as who runs the detention. Mr. Bean was very good to me. He worked very hard for kids. He did what he thought was right. But I can say he didn't always follow the solitary confinement law. He didn't agree with it when it was passed, and he ignored it sometimes.
Lots of laws I don't agree with,
Yeah.
but I've got to follow them, and so do you.
We all
so
do. I
that's
took
right.
an oath to follow the law.
That's right.
And as far as kids getting the right medicines, that's scary. I don't want to have a dead child, and I don't know that that would ever happen, but I want to make sure it doesn't. And I want to make sure that we have a nurse there around the clock that's given accurate medicine counts, that we're following the state rules, that we're certified, that we don't have to call local authorities in to make the kids go to bed at night. We don't have to get help from KPD or the Sheriff's Department until we need it for something serious. I just wish that he could have continued to consult for a while and gone out on his own terms. I hate that it came to this. I like Mr. Bean. He's a friend of mine. He probably doesn't think I'm much of a friend right now, but I like Mr. Bean, and I'm sorry he had to go out this way, but I'm excited about a change in leadership, and I'm excited about the positive direction. I think it'll take a while to get there. You don't change 51 years in 5 minutes.
We're going to talk about that direction and the oversight and how it moves forward. We've got to take a quick break on Inside Tennessee. Back with more with Judge Irwin right after this. Back on Inside Tennessee, Judge Tim Irwin is our guest, talking about the future of the juvenile justice system in our community. Susan.
Well, before we get to the future, I was just going to ask you, were you aware that Richard was going to fire the nurse and the IT guy? Did he ask you for your advice about that? And if so,
He did.
what did you tell him?
I told him that was his decision to make, and that I felt like he was going to do it. And
Anyway.
I just said,
And that's the one part of juvenile court you really don't have much oversight, where you kind of control and have oversight over every other element.
I do, and I don't have much about what goes on back there, but we have to work together. I have to work with partners in my job. I have to work with the Attorney General's office and the Public Defender's office. I have to work with the Department of Children's Services every day, all day. I have to work with the detention center and its leadership, and that's just part of running that place down there. There's a lot of people that go to work every day at 3323 Division Street. Now, yes, you're right. I did know that he was going to ask the nurse to step down and to ask the computer guy to step down.
For being a whistleblower?
Basically, I said, well, you just got to do what you got to do. I wouldn't agree with it. I wouldn't, and that's when I had to say something to the mayor. So he took it from there.
You did
I
call the mayor.
did tell the mayor that, yes.
And he, I guess, took action from that point forward.
Yeah, he was incensed about it. So
Do you think the mayor or you should have gone to the oversight board at juvenile court instead of taking what appears to be a unilateral action that may not be within the purview of the mayor?
I think that board meets once a quarter, and I don't think that could wait for that board to come around again. I think something needed to be
A
done.
board of three can meet pretty quickly.
They can. And if you ask Billy Stokes or Sherry Mahar or John Valiant, they'd probably say, we should have come to the oversight board. But that's the same oversight board that I've been in front of the last 3 meetings begging Mr. Bean to accept a consultant role, to think about stepping down. I felt like things were getting away from him. And I said that openly in those meetings. And everybody just ignored it and went on business as
Well,
usual.
Richard didn't want to leave.
No, he thought he could. I think he wanted to work there forever. And I'm sorry he didn't get to. I wish he'd have gone out on better terms.
Let's talk about the new leadership that's in that post and the new oversight, which ends up being a big chunk of county commission. Judge, what are your expectations of the new person in charge? And it sounds like he wants to hire a lot of people, but it's unclear where that money may come from.
He has got to be given the resources he needs to do the job. There are no supervisors back there other than Richard Bean and Kay McLean. They're gone, and there's no supervisor level people. He would like to have some. He is down about 10 positions. I think he's got 6 positions in training right now. I don't want to speak for Mr. Bivens. I think he's glad to speak for himself, but what I understand, there's 6 people coming on board. He would like to have some social things, some mental health things, some psychiatric stuff going on back there in detention. That costs money. Nobody's willing to appropriate any money for that. We would like to get in compliance very quickly with the state. I'm excited about his ability to do that because since he retired from the Sheriff's Department, that's what he's done, is gone around the country and checked on compliance and helped people get in compliance.
In juvenile facilities?
All different facilities. I don't know if he's done any juvenile or not.
Yeah, the concern I might have, Chief Bivens is a fine individual, had a great law enforcement career, but juvenile justice, as we've talked many, many times, is very different than adult justice. And do you have any concerns that he lacks sort of that social skill, social science skill to work with children versus adults in an incarcerated setting?
Based on my brief encounters with him, and I don't see him every day, I talk to him on the phone 2 or 3 times a week. He has a heart for the children. I think he really does. He's concerned about them being better when they come out of there. But it's not a rehabilitation place. I want to take issue with the first thing you said. You said, you know, juvenile delinquency is about rehabilitation. Adult is about
well, the system is different is what I'm talking about. I know that it's a bit of a holding tank.
That's what we have there. We have kids that stay a very short time. Most of them less than 24 hours. Some of them 2-4 hours. The ones that stay back there basically are the ones that Magistrate Reed or I have determined are too dangerous to let out with the public.
But they still have to be educated. They have to be medically cared for.
And what percentage, we know there are about 120 beds, Judge. What percentage of them are long-term holds?
Between maybe 10 or 12 kids at one time. There'll be 4 or 5 left over from the night before that get out at detention. 16 to 20, somewhere in that on a daily count. It used to be a little more, but for some reason it's been less, and that's a good thing. But we have capability of housing 120 if we were fully staffed. It's one of the few areas that was overbuilt. Coach Shumpert, in his administration, they built a big detention facility, and we can actually, if we're fully staffed, we can actually house detainees from other counties and help out and help offset some of the costs by doing that. But when you're down in payroll, you know, you can't, and it's a tough job. No one in the 3rd grade raised their hand and said, I want to run a juvenile detention facility when I grow up. I don't know anybody that would say that. It's tough. You got to duck when they swing. You don't get to swing back. And they do swing. We have 4 officers that were injured in the last couple of months by kids. And they're tough kids. And some of them are ganged up, some of them aren't. A lot of them are back there because they're gun toters, carjackers, that type stuff. And we don't take your average, run-of-the-mill kid doesn't stay back there longer than one night. We put them on ankle monitors. We change their homes. They go with another parent. They go with a grandparent. Whatever we can do to get them well on the outside, we do it.
So
we've got to take a quick break, Susan. We'll come back with you, but we're back with more of Judge Tim Irwin and our juvenile justice system right after this. On Inside Tennessee with Judge Tim Irwin. Susan.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, there are 120 beds, but you indicated there's 15, 20 people, maximum 30 there at most of the time?
That's it.
Well, that stay longer than a day.
Right,
yeah, I mean, there might be.
What's your average daily population?
It might swell up to 21 or 22, and there'll be 3 or 4 detention hearings, and they'll get out at 10 o'clock the next morning. It'll be back down to 16 or 17.
So what's your average daily population, whether they stay a day or they're long-term people? You have 30 kids back there on any given night, 40 kids?
Max.
Okay.
20 probably be more average right now. It used to be a little more than that.
And
but
so
it's-
from a county perspective, if we could staff up that facility, we could take some of those out-of-county kids where those facilities are not as nice, not as effective, or could be as effective as we could be in
recover
Knox.
some of the expense.
That's right.
Blount County does it now. They take
right.
our kids.
You mentioned, I just want to look a little big picture. You mentioned Child Protective Services and that you work with them all the time. We have talked on this show about the crisis in Child Protective Services at the state level. What's your take?
It's still pretty tough.
And why do
It's-
you say that?
They're being asked to do a lot of extra things right now. They're asked to go to these assessment centers. We have one just across from the courthouse, from my courthouse. It's called St. Nick's. It's a well-run building. It's a nice building, but the DCS workers have to actually go and put in babysitting hours because those kids don't have a rehabilitative treatment bed ready to go to, a placement. Some of them are, those kids are not even delinquent kids. Those kids are dependent neglect kids that don't have anywhere to go. And they sit over there in that dorm type atmosphere, and they get them to school, and they bring them food in, and they sit with them at night, and DCS workers have to work their 40, plus they have to sign up for so many 6-hour shifts at St. Nick's a month. They don't like that.
And we heard that they had children sleeping at one point in offices, which
Not anymore. We got St. Nick's now. They just moved it to an actual facility that they lease, and it's still happening. We don't have enough
They
beds.
stay there at the office and sleep. They don't at St. Nick's.
They stay at St. Nick's and sleep instead of the office.
But there are no beds at St. Nick's?
Yeah.
There are beds?
Oh,
I'm
there are
sorry.
beds. There's St. Nick's. There's and they're like it's like a big dorm, but it's not. They're not getting treatment and rehabilitation there. They're not in their treatment yet. They're waiting on their treatment to open up.
So you see the best and worst in parents and in children. If you could wave a magic wand, you talked about mentorship, and I know you've done a ton of work raising money for Boys and Girls Club. But is there something that you see within our culture that would help young people?
I think it's a danger anytime you go checking out a substance, you don't know what it's going to do to you. And I mean even pot, even Delta 9, forget about the other stuff. But you don't know how you're going to react to that. I believe there are people that can use that and walk away. And I believe there are people that use that stuff and it ruins their life. So I'd be real careful about what I put in my body. That'd be one advice I would give. The second thing is, no means no. If somebody doesn't want you touching them, stop touching them. If you could solve those two problems, I could probably close one day a week. That'd be great if we could get those two things done.
Tim, I'm hearing you say there's a lot of problems in every community, ours
Sure.
as well. But the reality, we are a political show. You are a political person. You have to be. How do you get the money out of county commission and out of the state to do some really necessary things right now? Because things are lean and things are tight.
If the county commissioners that sit on that board, it'll be up to them to let the rest of county commission know what we need to run that detention facility. I've got what I need to run juvenile court. I'm not hurting. I've got the right people. I've got the right number of people. But as far as running that detention facility, if you ask somebody to come in and take it over, you got to give them what they need to do the job.
Are you worried about the sheriff's department being that entity?
Not so much. It depends on who the sheriff is. I wouldn't be worried about it if it was Tom Spangler. I don't know who the next sheriff's going to be, and I don't know how they're going to. I mean, I have a relationship with Tom Spangler, and he'll be there for me. The police chief will be there for me, but I don't know who the next sheriff's going to be, so I can't make any predictions. I think it makes sense in a lot of ways to have law enforcement running it rather than a private entity or the court. I don't think I should run it. I don't think I should have the power to move kids around the room that I've adjudicated on. That's too much in one man's hand.
Did you ever, just curious, did you ever recommend to the board, the previous board, that the sheriff take over this center, the management?
I recommended it like this, just exactly like this. Please, Mr. Bean and board, get us a training officer in here for every shift. You step back in a little bit of a consultant's role, and let's get a training officer in here for every shift to make sure we're doing this right. And those prayers and requests went unanswered for multiple meetings.
Judge, we're going to leave it there, but appreciate your time and your ongoing service to Knox County.
Thank you.
We're back with our talk around right after this. Two big names in the race to be Tennessee's governor. You're seeing one now. That is Senator Marsha Blackburn announcing her run for governor, sandwiched by President Trump on the front end of that announcement and the back end. That's another high-profile Republican, Congressman John Rose, who also says he's in. So what does it look like if the two match up against each other? This is the Beacon poll, that nonprofit based in Nashville, and you can see Senator Blackburn's edge there, some 52 points. Give us some context with this, Susan, because this race is not even going to happen until August of next year.
Yeah, and there's no question Senator Blackburn has name ID, statewide name ID. She was in the state Senate, she ran for Congress, she's run for the U.S. Senate and been elected. John Rose has only been in the 6th district as a congressman. He's been Commissioner of Agriculture and, other things, but not statewide name ID. So there's no question she's got the name ID now, but it is very early. He's been out about 4 months maybe campaigning. She's just now announced for governor. So it'll tighten up. Marsha's certainly got to be considered the front runner at this stage, but I think you'll see it tighten up.
Don, let's shift to county politics because we saw the results of an investigation by state investigators and Phil Ballard facing some trouble, and also a former member of the trustee's office, but not Justin Biggs.
It is a little curious. The conduct alleged, and I stress that word alleged, of Phil Ballard and of Justin Biggs seem quite similar. And none of us know the inner workings of a grand jury unless you're in the grand jury or a member of it. And so I don't want to presume or predict why the grand jury chose to indict Ballard and not Biggs, because again, on the surface, they look very similar. But I'm just curious as to whether there might be additional investigations, whether there might be, for example, an ouster suit come out of the county law director's office, and that would be difficult. That's a very difficult bar to cross, or whether there might be some additional criminal investigation on the federal side. So time will tell. This could be the end of it, at least for Justin Biggs. And the election's coming up in a year, so it may organically take care of itself if the public doesn't have trust in Justin Biggs anymore.
Don Bosch, Susan Williams, will leave it there. Just a reminder, there is an election underway right now in the Knoxville city election, replacing 5 of the 9 seats on council. Again, that's a majority.
Very important election.
Yeah, and all of 1,700 have voted or something.
That's right.
Very
Barely
small
2% of the 82,000 who can vote have in day 6 of the early vote. So just circle that one. Again, you're sort of winnowing down the candidates to 2 from each district, and you'll make the choice in November. So for some, this is the halftime score.
Remind everyone the sales tax issue is not on this ballot, but go vote anyway.
That's right.
There you go. We'll leave it there for now and hope to see you next week right here on Inside Tennessee.